I'd like to start this one thing off with talking about converting buyers. And it's something that I deal with on a daily basis with myself and other agents. People are talking about, oh, I'm getting a lot of leads, but no one's converting and this and that. I think that understanding the journey of a buyer first, right up front, is the most important aspect of understanding kind of where you are in your business, because at the end of the day, it's really not about you. Same thing with selling houses and listing properties. It's really about the client and their journey and their timeline. And you are supposed to be there to guide them and help them through that process. But if you think of the entire journey of someone looking to purchase a house, especially if it's a first-time home buyer, I mean, think about this. Those of you that are on the call that own a house, I mean, how long did you have a conversation with your significant other before you actually filled out a 1003 app to start the process to get approved for a mortgage? So if you think about yourself and your own journey, like myself, I talked about it for a year and a half before I was even really ready, before I actually started putting my tax returns up and filling the application out and submitting all the documentation. So that journey of a buyer is what you've got to get really, really good at, of meeting people where they are today, helping them with the information that they're looking for right now, and then nurturing and being that trusted resource over time. So when they are ready to purchase, you are the top of mind agent. You're the one that's followed up with them. You're the one that has been holding their hand this entire time. So when their journey is beginning to actually purchase, you're the agent that can help them make that decision, find those homes, put those homes in escrow, and then close them and get them into their dream home. So that'll be the big topic for today. We're going to get to the open forum here in a moment. But some of the things that I've done in my business over the years is, number one, is niching down. And that niche can be a lot of different things to a lot of people. So for me, those of you that do know me, I am an investor. I represent investors. I'm involved with a lot of investment properties. So over time, I've been able to position myself in front of other investors that want to buy and sell over and over and over and over again. So, and that niche can be for a lot of different people. It can be, if you want to get into investing or you're into investing, it can be a very profitable strategy for you. But it could be first-time home buyers. It could be, people that are looking. Something that came up last week with one of our agents is they were generating a ton of leads, but most of them weren't ready to buy. They were looking to lease. So we plugged them into that particular agent. We plugged them in with Home Partners of America. They were actually in their market. And it was like her discovering that solution for the challenges that she was facing. It was very eye-opening for her. And I'm very happy for her, because that can be definitely a lucrative strategy. But if you think about the journey of someone that wants to lease a house versus buy a house, right? If you can get into conversations with people and find out what they're really wanting and what they're truly looking for, you may ask them the question, hey, would you be open to a rent-to-own scenario? Gosh, we would love to rent to own a home. Perfect. I have a solution for you. So you're meeting people where they're at and asking them questions. And everybody that you talk to that's been in the business a long time, agents, brokers, team leaders, coaches, educators, they're all going to have a different way of how you do a buyer consultation or just a buyer strategy. I don't want to sit here and say you have to do it one certain way. I want to convey to you guys that you have to meet people where they are and really understand their needs, because that timeline for everyone could be different. If a lead comes into my funnel and they happen to look at a couple properties and they respond to one of my auto responded messages and they say, hey, we're just looking right now, I'm not going to ask them if they're pre-qualified. I'm not going to ask them if they're working with another agent. I'm going to say, that's great. What timeline are you looking at? The end of the year, next year? I'm going to try to meet them where they are and make them feel comfortable that I can be a resource for them. Then I'm going to ask them, hey, would you like for me to put you on a custom home search so you can have properties just emailed to you that fit exactly what you're looking for in the area? And that's always a question that I ask people up front, because I want to get them on a drip. And it could be 6 months. It could be 9 months. One of the buyers that I closed this past month was a year and a half. And that was a personal referral from another client. But it took a year and a half for him to actually finally make that purchase. So I had him on my drips. We communicated. He texted me questions. I would follow up periodically. I met him where he was at and I became that resource for him, and he actually kept coming back to me. So that's something that I like to do. I like to get people on a property search as quickly as possible. And it doesn't matter what their timeline is. If they're further out, I'm going to send them 1 email a week. I've had buyers that say, hey, look, we have to be in a home within 5 weeks. I don't care what we have to do, scorch the earth. We have to find a property. Great. I'm going to put them on a drip that triggers every single time the property status either flips to active on a new property or something fell out of escrow, goes back to active. I want to flood them with property so we can go tour several homes on a tour session, so to say. But meeting them where they are, finding ways that you can help and nurture people is so important in our industry. And I think a lot of agents, especially the newer agents, they get so wrapped up in, oh, nobody's wanting to buy, or they're not responding to my messaging, or they're not doing this, or this isn't happening, or this isn't happening. Real estate is it's a flow, right? It's a business of building your personal reputation, because the more people that know you, that trust you and like you, can refer you business. But in the beginning, if you're not pushing outbound into the marketplace versus, the leads that are coming in, if you're not reaching back out to them, or even your sphere of influence, what are you doing to drip on people? How are you staying in contact? What are you doing in your social media, channels, your profiles, the content that you produce, right? You can show that buyer journey if you're working with buyers on your social media platform so people can warm up to you. Another thing is, are you using video in your business? Are you responding to people with video? Do you have a video series when people are curious about the process of buying a home? Have you created 10 or 15 little short videos that you can shoot on your phone and keep on your YouTube channel and put them into a playlist? And anytime a lead comes in, you can actually just send them that playlist, or you can send them a personalized video. My point is, there's a lot of different ways to nurture leads to the point where they are ready. Because remember, the conversion is when they're ready. And your job is to be that trusted resource. And once again, if you're not at the point where you have multiple appointments, multiple tours, multiple people, you just haven't built the momentum enough in your business to get to that point where maybe you need to hire a buyer agent. Maybe you need to start hiring a coordinator to do showings for multiple buyers at one time. So there's a lot of different ways that we can have conversations about converting buyers. But I'm going to say this like a broken record, because I don't think agents that are newer to the business or haven't had a lot of success and done a lot of volume really understand it's really not about you. Your job is to be a trusted resource and do all the things that I talked about to stay in front of people. But the journey of a buyer is very different for every single person. Sometimes it's 6 months, sometimes it's 6 weeks, sometimes it's a year and a half. And your job is to be that trusted resource when that time comes. So let me see here. Let me pull my screen open a little bit so I can see a little bit more. Hi, man. I know you're sitting there in the background. You probably have a lot of thoughts. You want to piggyback on anything that I just mentioned? Because as yourself, right, we work with a lot of agents. We see and hear a lot of things on a daily basis. You want to add to that conversion cycle of the process of helping home buyers?
The only thing I can add to that, there's not much I can add to that, but what comes to mind is really patience and consistency. Because at the end of the day, what happens is, if you put in the work for a week, whether that's YouTube, whether that's Facebook ads, whether that's open housing, whether that's direct mail marketing, whether that's whatever, if we stop doing what initially helps us get that first client, that 10th client, that 100th client, then we're just losing momentum. We're trying to build too many different businesses in a way. Because anytime you're looking to implement an additional strategy, you're building a brand new business. So if you're learning Facebook ads and then you're trying to go over here to do Google ads and then you're trying to go over here and do YouTube, that's a good recipe for you to be flustered and ultimately not see that compounding effect, right? So how you start seeing that compounding effect is by investing in that one medium, or at most that second medium that's been successful. So just going and sporadically going and doing this, that, or the other, that's really where we start losing a lot of the a lot of that compounding, I know I mentioned it already, but that compounding effect. So once you build some momentum in a strategy, vertical, whatever you want to call it, then having the patience to continue following up. You have to recognize that at any point in time, somebody is looking to buy, but it's not the majority of the audience. It's less than 3% are going to be ready, willing, and able to buy that very second. So we can't expect to have 100% closing ratio that someone's going to buy immediately. So just staying in the game, following up, and being consistent is really what is what on my mind. I really don't have too much to contribute. Right?
Oh, I mean, that makes perfect sense. I mean, it's the consistency of your actions over time that build the momentum in your business. So if you're, posting content like we were just talking about a minute ago with Eric, staying consistent with the amount of content that you're pushing out, it gives you that result over time. I'll use this as an example. A newer agent that I started working with almost 2 years ago now, Ali Nori. You can check him out on TikTok, and his handle is Nori, Noori Estates. And brand new guy. He was still in college, which surprised me because of the amount of work that he's done. It just blew my mind, the capacity that he did. But I said, "What do you want to focus on, man?" He goes, "I want to be a luxury agent. I just want to sell luxury homes." I said, "Okay, you can do that." He goes, "Where do we start?" I said, "Well, the first thing that you do is you have to show the world what you're into, what you're doing. So here's the plan. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to schedule preview appointments 4 days a week with as many luxury properties as you possibly can. And when the question comes up, this is a preview for a client. You typically don't get any further questions than that unless you get into the uber luxury properties, several million and up. That's when the agent's going to meet you there. And there's going to be a lot of pre-qualification on their end. So, and I said, the point of doing this also is in your social media, what people see you doing is what they know you, meaning the perception is the reality. So even though he hadn't sold one home, everything that he put on his TikTok, because I asked him, what channels do you want to focus on? He said, TikTok and Instagram. I said, perfect. He was very clear, very concise. Luxury real estate, TikTok, Instagram. I said, great. We're going to blast your profiles with luxury properties every single week. That's the strategy. He didn't cold call anybody. He didn't even really dig down into a sphere of influence because he was, 19 years old, just trying to finish up college, or I don't think he was 20 by then. But he said, I just want to focus on these channels. I want inbound marketing. I said, great. So he did it. And he just every single week started pounding it. And then he picked up a client, and then he picked up a client. And then he had some videos go viral. He had one of his videos have 4.5 million hits. Another one had 1 point whatever, then another $2 million one. He called me one day kind of in a panic, said, hey man, he goes, I have 28 active buyers that I can't find properties for. So we started strategizing about how to work through them. I suggested referring a chunk of them over. And then anyway, but my whole point was he stuck to one strategy. He focused on it, and he went, not only did he double down on it, he went all in. And even now, almost every time when I pull up TikTok, I see one of his video first, Noori Nori Estates. Let me make sure I have that spelled correctly. I think that should be something like that. You'll find him. He's got more business than he can handle now. About a month ago, he called me. I missed the call. I texted him back. I saw some international code error. I thought that was weird. So when I finally spoke with him, he's like, hey, I just got off an airplane. I'm in Germany. We just got here to do a week-long vacation. And he goes, I'm kind of nervous. He goes, I have a buyer that wants to write an offer on a $3.2 million home. What are some tips and suggestions that you have? We talked about inspections and all this and contact strategy and all that. And I said, well, where did you get that lead? He's like, man, he came through Instagram. This guy reached out and said, hey, I've been following you. I love all the properties that you post. I see that you're in luxury real estate. I like you. I want you to represent me. I mean, if that's not the biggest win, and that was a brand new agent that we started working with, and he just executed, and he executed well. Kind of like when, I was talking about Franco. We interviewed Franco a couple months ago, and he talked about he knew nothing. He knew nothing about transactional real estate. Well, I would say transactional, but just the inside of the real estate business. He came from a mortgage business. He said, look, I'm going to give this a year. I'm going to give it my all. And it was just failure. Kind of like he just failed forward and kept learning. And then over time, it started to open up and it really took off for him. So inbound leads is what we all want, right? That coveted lead that calls you, that says, hey, I'm ready to buy, or I'm a couple months out, or hey, I'm moving to the area. That's how your content strategy can build over time. But whenever someone reaches out to you, they've already been through their journey of their process, right? They've already been thinking about it. They've already been discussing it with their spouse and family. They may or may have not started reaching out to a mortgage broker to get pre-approved. They're financially ready. So you're meeting them where they are. And that's the great thing about content marketing, is it will create inbound leads for you over time. So converting that particular lead at that moment in time is different than you generating an online lead that they could be 12, 18 months out from actually being ready to purchase. So that's your job, is to meet people where they are, stay consistent with the marketing efforts that you have, and stay consistent with the follow-up with the people that you're actually maybe in your CRM or your sphere of influence.